Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. My name is Josephine Snowling, for those of you that don't know, and I am here, and this channel is here to inspire you on your journey towards consciously creating the life that you desire. So if that is something that floats your boat and is something that you're interested in, then subscribe, because I would love to have you as part of my journey and your journey as well. So let's jump into today's video. I want to walk you through 7 ways around how you can start to enjoy your own company and how you can start to be happy being alone in your own company, how you can start to thrive in it and not see it as a burden or something to even be afraid of, to be wary of, but how you can thrive in it and how you can use the confidence that you gain from enjoying your own company and how that can have a ripple effect into other social situations and situations where you are engaging with other people. So let's jump into the first tip. And this is going to maybe seem like a little bit of an odd one, but there's a reason for it, and I'll tell you the story behind it. So the first thing that I recommend you to do, if you don't already do this, is to meditate. And the reason that I suggest that you start to meditate is mainly because of one of my own experiences that I had. I remember, oh my goodness, this was like 8, 9, maybe even 10 years ago now, the first time that I actually sat down to meditate. I went to a local Buddhist center in my hometown. I'd recently come back from my honeymoon to Thailand, and my eyes had just been open to this whole other world, of spirituality, and I was interested. So I went to my local Buddhist center and we went into the shrine room and we did a group meditation. So although there was other people obviously in the room, we were closing down our own eyes and meditating in our own space. And I remember how uncomfortable and awkward I felt being up close and personal in my own space. And this is why I recommend for you to meditate, because meditation is very different to just being alone. You can be alone in your own house, for example, making something in the kitchen, sitting and reading a book, doing something on your phone, whatever it is you're doing. But when you're doing an activity, you're distracted. And it's a very different way to be with yourself than when you are just sat doing nothing but being with yourself, observing yourself. It can be a bit scary, it can be a bit intimidating to start with, but it's a great foundation to start to feel comfortable, really being in your skin and being happy to observe everything that comes up, like the messiness as well as the stillness and the calmness. So if you don't already meditate or have a meditation practice, then this is definitely something that I recommend that you just give it a go. And you don't have to go to a Buddhist center or a group or, do this with anyone else. You can just simply do this in your own home. Do it somewhere where you feel comfortable. But just practice for 5-10 minutes, sitting down, closing your eyes, and just feeling what it's like to be in your own internal world. Start to enjoy it. It's gonna feel a bit weird and a bit clunky to begin with if you're not used to it, but this is really the foundation and the basis for getting to know yourself. And this will have a big impact on how you interact with yourself when it's just you, yourself, and I. So I haven't got any extra videos around how to start to meditate if you're a beginner in it. So let me know if that's something you're interested in. Drop me a comment below and let me know if you want more details around how to start meditating, what to look out for, some of the pitfalls, some of the things that might come up. Let me know if you're interested and I'll create a video around that. But that is my first tip. Start to meditate, start to be with yourself, start to be conscious being alone with yourself and see what comes up and be accepting of it. That's, the whole point of meditation, it's to allow what wants to come up and to let it go. Okay, but that's for a whole nother video if that's what you want. So tip number 2 is to start befriending your inner self. And this kind of goes hand in hand with meditating. This is what allows you to start to do using meditation as a modality to start befriending whatever it is you want to call it. You might want to call it your inner being, your soul, your inner self, your higher self. It's that kind of separate, well, it's not separate part of you, but sometimes it feels a bit separate. It's that the part of you can't see, it's the part you can feel like intuitively within you. You want to start befriending this. You want to start really getting to know your internal world, okay? So when you are alone, and I'll give you an example. So recently I went to this lovely restaurant and I had brunch there just by myself. And there was lots of other people sat around me at other tables eating and chatting and, doing what most people do at restaurants. And I was so happy just sat there in my own little internal world, because in my world, the things that I was having conversations around in my head were my dreams, my aspirations, my goals, thinking about a chapter in the book that I read last night and all the intricacies that I liked about it and what I was excited and looking forward to reading that was going to come up next in the book, what was going to happen next for the characters. I was thinking about what I was going to do with the rest of my day, what I've been really grateful for this morning. All of this conversation was going on in my internal world without needing to have anybody else sat around me to discuss it. Now, this video is not about obviously promoting that you don't need anybody else, and it's, you don't need to interact. It doesn't matter if you don't have any other, form of socialization, not at all. But if you can be comfortable in your own company, in the presence of just yourself, then social interactions with other people just become effortless, because you take what you learn and what you use when you are just with yourself into situations with other people. Like it raises your confidence. And what it allows you to do as well is it allows you to do more things in life. How many times, and let me know in the comments if this is you, if there's something that you really want to do, but you've held off doing it because you feel the need to have somebody else there with you to do it. Maybe it's going to see a band, a concert, and you think, well, I can't really just do that by myself. I need to have somebody else to come with me. Or even going out for a meal, going to the cinema, going to an art gallery, whatever it is, traveling. We kind of get these fixed ideas in our head around there's certain activities that we have to do in life with other people. Now, of course, yes, it is nice to share those experiences with other people. And, let's just take going to a concert, for example. It's an amazing feeling to go with a friend or somebody who's really into that musician as well as you. You can share that experience, you can share that excitement and that joy. But it shouldn't be the reason that stops you from doing these things in life, just because you haven't got anybody else in your life who's interested in those things as well. So I want you to start enjoying the landscape that sits behind your eyes, inside your mind, because in that landscape, anything is possible. And it gets to be really fun, because when you go out in public and you're just by yourself, you get to sit there and think of all these things that no one else has a clue what you're thinking about. You get to really push boundaries and experiment and really be who you are in your own head. And the more you can start to do it in your own mind and become comfortable with that in your own mind, what actually starts to happen is it starts to creep into your physical way of being. So, you hear people talk about be who it is that you want to be in life. Well, this is a really gentle way to start being that person. Is you've got to be them first in your head before you can start to take on those mannerisms and those characteristics and those attributes of that person that you aspire to be, who you aspire to be. So start to daydream more. Get in your head more. And so many of us have been told, especially from, being a young child, get your head out of the clouds, stop daydreaming. It's not something that's actively encouraged. But this up here, this is where everything that you see external to you is created. this is your powerhouse. You know, like, your imagination is an amazing tool. It's an amazing place to reside within. And there is nothing sad or pitiful about enjoying being in your own head, in your own mind, in your own dreamscape. So when you start to float off and daydream, when you start to sit there and think about what it is that you want for your future, your goals, your aspirations, some of the things that you want to experience and you desire to have in this life, don't stop yourself and say, this is not productive, or, this is not something I should do. Try and catch yourself and allow yourself to indulge in that activity, because the more you think up here, the more it starts to translate physically out there. So, and if you want, so if any of you are interested in diving a bit deeper into intuition and how to start connecting with that and really forming that relationship with your inner being, your inner self, then check out this video that I'm going to link up here, and I'll put it in the description box below as well, because it takes you through a much bigger deep dive on how you can start tapping into your intuition and really having that deep level connection with your inner self, how you can start having conversations with it and allowing it to guide you and give you inspiration and all that great stuff. So check out that video if you're interested to dive deeper. Now, moving on to number 3. This is really important. Knowing who you are gives you confidence and allows you to relax. Okay. And what I mean by this, like, most people would say, well, of course I know who I am. But I bet that a lot of people don't really know who they are. It's a journey. Like, I don't know if you ever really completely finalize knowing who you are. It's part of this lifetime, and what this lifetime is about is going on that journey to discovering who you really are. But the closer you can get to the truth of who you really are, what you really like, what your preferences are, what lights you up and what turns you off as well, because you equally need to know what turns you off to know what lights you up, the more you can relax, the more you can ooze with that confidence. Because I think a lack of confidence actually comes from just really not knowing what we do want and what we don't want. So often we're able to moan and complain about things, but very few of us are actually able to say, this is what I want and this is what I desire. And when you have that understanding of what it is that you want, what it is that you like and what it is that you don't like, you can more easily move towards that. You can more easily focus on that. And what that then does is it gives you this internal confidence. And this translates to being on your own as well. And I want to give you this example that my husband thinks this is hilarious, but so this was my coffee epiphany that I had. But this really explains about knowing yourself and then having that confidence to be by yourself, be alone, and enjoy your own company. So for a long time, so before I left to become a stay-at-home mum, which is a whole nother story, I worked in the corporate world and I would go to coffee shops a lot. Quite a lot of the time we'd have meetings there. I'd meet clients, I'd go with colleagues, and I loved going into a coffee shop. I loved the vibe of it. Like, it was really chilled and relaxed and it was a good atmosphere. But the only problem was that I didn't really ever know what to order for a coffee. And I just, coffee wasn't really a thing like in my family. Like, I suppose when I was like a teenager, it was, I don't know, it wasn't new to where we were, but certainly it was very new in like my family. Like, I didn't grow up with people who were like coffee nerds and things like that. And so I would go into the coffee shop and I would basically just kind of order what everybody else was ordering, which most of the time ended up being something like a latte. And I would sit there and I would drink this coffee and I would just kind of feel really miserable. Like, it didn't taste that great. It kind of made me feel really funny afterwards. And in the end, I just kind of stopped wanting to go to coffee shops. Like, I just went off of it and so then as I started to go on this journey of really becoming conscious about understanding who I was as a person and what I like and what lights me up, I had a coffee epiphany and I started to realize some things, some simple standard things about myself, which was I don't really like really milky drinks. I don't really like a lot of milk-based things anyway. So a latte was not going to be up my street. I'm not great with caffeine. Like, I've always been really super hypersensitive to caffeine. So a caffeinated drink is not really going to be my thing. And one day, do you know what? I walked into a coffee shop and I just thought, I'm just going to try something new. If I don't like it, I don't like it. I've spent what, £2-3 on it. It's fine. But I was, I had a desire. I wanted to be part of this coffee scene, this cafe scene, and to go in and to sit and enjoy a drink in this atmosphere. So I needed to find my coffee, and in order to do that, I needed to experiment. I needed to find out what I liked and be happy with finding things I didn't like, because I knew that was going to get me closer to understanding what it was I did like. So I went in and I ordered a decaf, because I'm sensitive to the caffeine, a decaf Americano, because I don't like things with lots of milk in, with oat milk. And ping, the lights went off. I was like, I think we were in a services with my husband, traveling back to visit family when it happened. I ran to him, was like, oh my God, I found my coffee. Like, this is it. Like, I like this. This is really good. I want to go back for more of this. And he just found it really cute and amusing. And it's a funny story, but what I'm trying to convey with this is that the more you get to know all those little tiny nuances about yourself, the more confidence you have. Now I love just going out to a coffee shop by myself, or, with one of my kids. And really enjoying that coffee, knowing this is me in a coffee cup, like, with all the things that I like. And you can do this with all sorts of other things. We get so dragged into following trends, to following what other people are doing. It's like a safety net. It's something that we have done probably since we were young. And there's reasons for why we do it. Back in tribal days, like, if we didn't fit in, if we were seen to be stepping out of the crowd, that could mean, things were dangerous for us. It could mean that our safety was jeopardized, but we don't live in times like that anymore. And we can be free to express what it is that we like, and we can really revel in that within ourselves. So this tip is to get you experimenting. Go and experiment, and don't be afraid of finding things you don't like, because more often than not, finding something you don't like is the key to pointing you in the direction of what it is that you do like. Take my coffee, for example. It was because I was able to highlight all the things that I didn't enjoy that I then started to get more focused and more clear about what it was that I did like. And I was able to put that all together and go, yes, this is me. So don't get put off. Don't think it's like a waste of time. If you go out and you have, an off-putting experience, take that, use it. It's information, it's clarity. But, the problem is people go and have a bad experience with something and they just stop there. It's like, well, it was a bad experience, or I didn't enjoy that, I didn't like that. And it's like the tumbleweed rolls. But what you can do is say, okay, yeah, I can accept that. It wasn't something I liked. So what information does that then give me? I don't like this. So then what do I like instead? And the more you can start to do this with even tiny things, like finding out what your coffee is, let me know what yours is in the comments below. I'd be really interested to know. And you can start to do this with small things, and your confidence just builds. Like, take my coffee example, right? Now when I go out with friends in a social situation and we go somewhere, like, even if it's not a coffee shop, like, I know what my preferences are. I know what it is that I like and what I enjoy. I can feel more confident ordering something. I can feel more confident saying yes or no to something, because I know what is right for me, what works for me. Whereas when we're working off the script of what's acceptable and what's socially seen or trending or whatever it may be, that is when we lose confidence, because it's not in alignment with who we really are. It's mirroring, it's trying to copy something else, somebody else. And you are not that somebody else. You are you. And the more you can start to embrace who you are, the more confidence you have, and the more you just relax into who you are. So start experimenting with what it is that what you like, and get to know yourself. Now, number 4 is start being able to laugh at yourself. And this is not always an easy one. Like, I will hand it to you, it's not always something I find easy to do. It takes practice. But if you can learn to laugh at yourself and to brush things off and let them go, then you have so much more confidence to go out into the world, to do things on your own, to be by yourself and know that it's fine. I don't need to have anybody else there to feel that confidence. Because I think what happens a lot of the time is when we go out in groups, it's that group, it's that kind of herd mentality of like safety in numbers. So if something, and of course, like, it's not necessarily about a safety thing, but even if something embarrassing happens, it's like you've got the safety of the group to deflect it, to just support you in that. Whereas when you're by yourself, it's just you. There is no one to deflect that embarrassment to. You kind of have to take it all. And I learned this, like, when I became a stay-at-home mum and I had a young baby. A lot of the people that I socialized with before were at work. They weren't about and available at the times I was. And I found myself having to find new groups of friends, new places to go out and to socialize, and places to, take me, myself, and my baby out. And I would kind of come across some embarrassing incident would, oh, hello, my cat's here. Some embarrassing incident would happen, and it would be enough to confine me back to my house for a few days, because I was like, I don't want to go and experience that again. Whereas if you can just laugh it off, and laugh it off with anybody else that happens to be around you, you just exude confidence. And it doesn't become a big deal. That is how you are able to let something go, is just to laugh at it. And I'll give you another funny example. I took my youngest daughter to a new museum in our local city couple of weeks back. And so I'd never been in this place before, and the volunteers at the front desk were really lovely. They were like, oh, have you been here before? And explaining what was on all the different floors and all of that kind of thing. And so I realized that I needed to go down to the toilets to take my daughter to the loo, and so I had to use the lift because I had the buggy. So I went over to where the lift was, and for the life of me, I could not find the lift switch. It just was not coming to me. In fact, there was a switch on the wall, but I was convinced it wasn't the lift switch. It just didn't look like a generic lift switch would look like. But I couldn't find anything else. So I was like, okay, it must be this switch. Okay. So I switched it, and I managed to turn all of the lights off in the bottom half of the museum. So all the people that were looking at the displays and everything, the lights just went out. And I wasn't far from the reception desk, and the person who had welcomed me very kindly sort of pointed me in the direction of where the switch actually was. And kind of obviously laughed a little bit. Now, in the past, that would have been something that would have just mortified me. I would have just felt like such an idiot, and again, it would have been something that I wouldn't have wanted to go back to that museum. That would have been on some sort of blacklist of I'm not going there again. But I was able to just laugh and say, wasn't that funny? Wasn't that a silly mistake? And not to belittle myself or to make myself feel stupid, but just, I was kind of imagining if that was in a comedy sitcom or something like that, it would be an interesting funny moment. And that was it. And I just left it there. And if anything, I now use that as a good example to explain to you guys how it is possible to laugh at yourself and the benefits that it can have to your confidence, and how it prevents you from blocking yourself from doing more things that you want in life. It's not an easy thing to do. So all I can recommend is you just take it step by step. If one day you can't do it and you want to not go to that place again, just don't go to that place again for a bit. But each time that comes up, and this is the thing, by you watching this video and being conscious of the fact that when you find an embarrassing scenario when you are by yourself, You are now conscious of when that next happens to you, that what might happen is you can catch yourself in that moment and say, I remember that video that I was listening to that Josephine talked about. Now, can I, in the space that I'm in now, laugh that off? And you just literally do it step by step like that. And this then translates into all sorts of places. So then when you're out with friends and something like that happens, you know, it's not like you have to feel like you're, you know, being singled out in the group and the group won't like you anyway. You know, like you can just sit back and relax in that confidence and just go, oh, wasn't that funny? Oh my goodness, like my head is just not switched on this morning. You know, you can just laugh it off. And how good does that feel to be in that place rather than to be creating a whole story around who that makes you as a person and, you know, how you're being perceived because of that action. So learn to laugh at yourself. Number 5, and this kind of then goes on nicely from being able to laugh at yourself, is learn to stop worrying about what others think. Now, this is one I still battle with, I will be honest with you, but I'm getting better at it. And there really is freedom in not worrying what other people think about you. I was raised to be a good girl. Maybe it wasn't intentional by my parents, but I was one of those good girls at school. I never did anything wrong. And it's not about going out and rebelling and purposely doing things against society. It's just about moment to moment following what you desire and what lights you up and following your path. And if sometimes that goes against some sort of social norm, you have to ask yourself, what do I want to put first? Do I want to put my own happiness first, or do I want to put the opinions of others first? And I know saying this, it's so much easier to say it than do it. Like, I really know this. It's something I still struggle with. But I tell you what, becoming a mum really helped with that. Like, I had 2 fairly traumatic births for my children, and I was at my most vulnerable, my weakest and my strongest in front of people I had, really no clue. Like, I'd never really met them before in the hospital. And, I was like bearing all when I was in surgery having my first daughter. And it kind of puts things into perspective. It's kind of like, well, if you can do this and you lived through that and, you're okay, then surely saying or doing something that's far more simple is going to be easier. And again, it's like learning to laugh at yourself. The more you practice it, the easier it becomes. So don't try and do it all at once. Just take little baby steps and really celebrate those baby steps that you have taken. Look back and see how far you have come, because nobody else is holding you back from what you want to do in life. As much as it may feel like that, your partner isn't, your children aren't, your family aren't, your colleagues aren't, your boss isn't, the government isn't, whoever it is that you have put on that pedestal as the person, the organization, the group of people that are holding you back or that are preventing you from doing something, it's not right. Like, no one is doing that. The only person that ever holds you back from doing anything in your life is you. But there's empowerment in that, because you have the ability to change how you think, how you show up, how you want to be. No one else has the ability to change the thoughts in your mind. Only you can do that. And when you can change the thoughts in your mind, that is when you gain the empowerment to live the life that you want and to do it consciously. So take baby steps around this. Just try once a week, once a day. It doesn't matter. Whatever you find that you are able to do, just try it. And see and notice what happens. Like, notice what happens when you push through that boundary, that barrier of letting go of what other people think. How does it make you feel after you do that? Was there really any repercussions? Because I think a lot of the time what happens is we get these ideas in our heads of what will happen if we go against the grain, if we do something that other people, you know, maybe don't agree with, we dramatize and we create these elaborate stories of how it's going to completely destroy our lives or completely destroy our social life or whatever. When in reality, if we actually do it, okay, you might get a few disgruntled comments or, you know, observations made, but do you really lose a friend? Do you really, you know, become ostracized from your group? More often than not, none of that actually happens. It's just this elaborate story in our head that's holding us back. So, and obviously when it comes to being alone and being in our own company and enjoying that, we don't want to just be in our own company and just following what we should be doing. Like, the whole point and what is so like delicious about being in your own space is being you and doing what you enjoy, regardless of what other people's opinions are about that. Because if not, you can't really fully enjoy being just you and being alone and being in your own company and doing that. Because you're not just going to be in your own company in your house that's got no one in. You're going to be out in society, you know, doing things on your own. And in order to thrive and feel confident in that, you have to let go of what others think. So again, take baby steps with it. But this next tip is something that's going to help with that. And that is to accept yourself so you can accept others. This really, like, these two kind of steps come hand in hand together around, if you can learn to accept other people for their quirks, for their likes, even if, you know, even their opinions, even if it goes against what you believe, what you like, if you can get into a place where you're able to accept others for being who they are, it becomes easier for you to accept who you are and for you to show up like that. So again, it's just around, and I think what happens is, you know, you interact with somebody and they do something or say something, they communicate something that you disagree with, that is not for you. And what happens is, we don't go the full like process. We kind of shut ourselves off after the I don't like this bit. It's like I was mentioning earlier in the video, that you find out what it is you don't like, and then your mind just like, it doesn't go, well, it doesn't go anywhere else. It starts to then create a story around that one little piece of information. So you might be talking to somebody and they express an opinion that you don't agree with. So instead of just going, okay, I recognize, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. I can recognize that that isn't something I agree with. But it's then what you make it mean that has the impact. So you could then go down this whole story of like, well, because they think that, they're this type of person, and I don't know if I want to be spending, you know, like, you can snowball down that path. So what I want you to start becoming conscious of is, when you interact with other people, is start to recognize when you don't like something, but then catch it, because it's helpful information to understand what it is that we don't like, even about other people, or not necessarily don't like, but it's our body and our psyche's way of communicating to us, to giving us more information. But you want to make that information about you, not about them. So if they do something that you don't like, you can grab that and say, okay, this isn't about them. It's no judgment to them, but this is information to me to say, that's not me. That's really not something I'd want to do. So that's great. So now I know, and I now have a bit more information about what it is that I do like, who I like to be, what I like to do. And then you just remove the other person from the whole situation, from the whole scenario. And the more you can start to go through this process each time it comes up, you can then start to accept yourself more. And that helps with then being able to, that then starts to allow you to, I've completely lost my trail of thought. Where was I going? To not worry about what other people think. Sorry, I just had a mind blank there. Yeah, so these two things go hand in hand, because if you're able to accept other people, then you can accept yourself more. Okay, that like this world is supposed to have variety in it. It's supposed to have uniqueness. Like we're supposed to show up as different people. It would be incredibly boring and dull if we were just all the same. But there's also nothing wrong in recognizing what it is that you dislike. Just don't make it about that person. Just use them as like they are a message that's come to you. They are like a mirror or a piece of information that's come to you. And by them living out who they are, it has just informed you more about who you want to be. And this is how you can also then have friendships with people who you don't necessarily have lots of things in common, like you're not exactly the same types of people, because you can start to sort of remove those elements and accept people for who they are. And this helps you to enjoy yourself more. You know, the more you know yourself, the more you can enjoy being in your own company, and the more you are confident when you are in your own company, out and around other people. And the last one, which kind of piggybacks off of this one as well, step number 7, is be someone that you want to be with. If you had a friend who was miserable, who wasn't optimistic, who was constantly on a downer and moaning about everything, who was afraid and was anxious about doing things, they're not going to be like the funnest person to hang around with. You're not going to necessarily like, you know, ditch them being your friend, but they're not going to be the person that you get excited about hanging out with. And it's exactly the same with yourself. If your mindset and all of your thoughts and your attention is on things that are miserable, on things that really don't light you up, that are things that are angry or based on pity, you know, on your victim mindset, are you going to want to spend time in your own head? No. So you need to start creating and start being the person that you want to be, because that's when you're going to start enjoying your own company more. Because, you know, when you're alone with yourself and you are in that really great space and all you look around and see is opportunities and possibilities and creativity and beauty, like, why would you not want to be in that headspace? And this is like where as well, if you can get into that place, it doesn't then matter if you're socializing with other people and you're around other people. If that vibe starts to drop with other people, you can just sink back into here and like tap back in and go, this is the place that I'm going to be. Like, this is the place that I'm going to reside. You have the power to create that. So even if you are around other people that are miserable, it doesn't matter. You can come back up here and you can think the thoughts that make you happy. You can focus on the things that bring you joy and that light you up. So all of these kind of tips come together and allow you to start really enjoying being alone, being by yourself, looking forward to it, finding it as a place of sanctuary rather than a place to run and hide from, and a place that quite frankly scares you. Okay, it's about really accepting everything, not just the good, you know, accepting the kind of muddiness and the messiness that comes up within all of us as well, and knowing that it's a part of you. It's an important part of you, because like I say, when you have an experience that comes up where, you know, or you have thoughts that come into your head, or you step into being a person you don't want to be, don't see that as a chance to put yourself down. See that as a chance for learning more about yourself. You know, you now know who you do want to be because of that experience, because of how you behaved in that way. And start to celebrate yourself more, start to praise yourself more and appreciate yourself more. And then you will ultimately want to be with yourself more, and you will be happy being alone and in your own company. So let me know, what are your takeaways from this video? What is one of the tips that you are really going to dive into that's really spoken to you? I would love to know and listen to your thoughts in the comments. Have a beautiful day, whatever it is you are doing, and I will catch you in the next video. Take care. Bye.